I'm here for Uptown Studios Live. I'm Tina Reynolds, and I'm here with Elise Baker, who has become a friend. And what we're going to talk about is fright and death. Well, maybe we'll have more fun than that. All right, Elise, introduce yourself. I want you to talk about first your singing and then your legal practice.
So I'm Elise Baker. I am a musician, a vocalist, singer-songwriter, a guitarist. And I've been doing that, for a million years. My mother used to say that my first words, I didn't talk, I sang. So I've always sung. Music's in me. And I'm also an attorney. I'm a certified specialist in wills, trusts, and estate planning. And that's what I do by day. I use my powers for good, helping people put their estate plans in place. And after a loved one has passed, helping administer estates as well.
Okay, so I knew about the legal part because I have sent several of our Uptown Studios team to you to get their trusts done, which I appreciate. We'll talk about in a minute. But what I really didn't know is that you have a singing career. And I want to talk about, you didn't do this for a long time because you had stage fright.
Yeah. I decided to study music in college, and I was training to be an opera singer. And I went to Cal State Northridge, which has an incredible music program, even better now than it was when I went there. And I was always technically very good. The problem was I couldn't relax. I couldn't relax enough on stage to connect with an audience. And as a performer, that's critical. You will not be a successful performer if you can't connect with your audience. So that stage fright really held me back. And I ended up changing my major. And I didn't do anything with music for a couple of decades. I sang in the shower and in the car and to my kids, and that was it.
That was it. Wow. So that's a serious stage fright.
Yeah.
So you did not go on stage for like 20 years?
No, I didn't do anything. Not at all.
And was it a hole in your heart?
It was. That's a really good way to put it. It was a hole in my heart. I didn't realize how much I missed it.
There's a song in there that you can write. A hole in
There's always a song.
So talk to me about stage fright, because this is not something that is, I'll tell you about my very first entree onto the stage. In 1983, I won an award for Volunteer of the Year, Business of the Year, for SARTA, Sacramento Arts, an arts organization. And it was at the Crest, and there were 1,000 people in the audience, 1983. And I'm supposed to go up on stage and talk for 2 minutes about businesses supporting the arts. And I was nervous wreck. So they call me up, and I walk up on stage in front of 1,000 people, and I get the microphone. And of course, you're not supposed to hold it, but I'm holding the microphone, and I lean in, and I went, "Thank you very much." And I left. And that was it. And I go to sit down in my seat, and the woman who had nominated me was there with me. And she says, "Tina, I don't think I've ever heard that voice before. What was that?" So that was my first adventure onto the stage. I've gotten better.
So for me, it wasn't quite like that. It was more, I would, if I was singing on stage, at the microphone in front of me, and I stood, like a statue, I stood. And then I would sing. I would open my mouth and I would sing, and I would be a statue. And so there was no emotion, no movement, nothing coming through except, maybe these pretty sounds coming out of my mouth. But that was it.
Oh, man.
So my challenge was and always in my head, am I hitting the right note? Am I holding it long enough? I was so in my head that my performance was not really a performance. So that was my big challenge, was relaxing and allowing myself to maybe hit a bum note, maybe not sing the right word, maybe not hold it long enough, make a mistake, and trust that if I'm with the audience is there with me too. And making a mistake is not the end of a performance.
Right. So
And I've made plenty of mistakes since
now,
then.
how did you get back on stage? What kind of people were surrounding you to say, no, 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 come on, you have to?
So there were two people really that were the catalysts for me taking the leap again. One was a local musician who a lot of people know her, Santa Christian. She teaches, she performs, she's always been a musician. And our lives have kind of weaved in and out of each other's lives over the years. But I was sitting in a coffee shop. I had an infant and a toddler at home, and I'm sitting in a coffee shop. Santa's there with her music partner, Terry, and they're singing, and I'm singing, I think, quietly to myself, the third part of the harmony. And then she stops, looks at me, and she says, I can hear you, and you need a microphone. And she handed me a microphone and said, you just jump in whenever you feel like jumping in, and you should be singing.
Oh,
So that stayed with me. I thought that was incredibly generous of her. And I never forgot it, clearly. And then another friend of mine, Phil Buckman, who's a professional musician, voiceover artist, actor. We went to high school together. I knew him in Los Angeles. And he and I reconnected through classmates or something. And we're chatting on the phone. And I was telling him how much I missed music. And he said, you really should just respond to some Craigslist ads and get out there. And I don't know why, when he said it, it made a difference.
so it was permission.
But it did. I guess so. I didn't think about it that way, but I guess so.
So how did you relax? I mean, because the stage fright, you carried that over, right? So how did you?
It was a process. I responded to ads, and it would take me forever to actually go to the audition. And these handful of people were very patient with me in our back and forth emails. And no, I can't make it that night. No, I can't make it that night. And then I would go ahead and show up, and I would sing, and they would be happy with what they heard. And I was a lot of self-talk. They want you to succeed. They're here to have fun. It's okay if you hit a bum note. It's not going to be the end of the world. Just have fun with it. And it took practice, and there were always the nerves. The heart would race, and the palms would sweat, and the stomach would be in knots. And the one thing I know I can do is sing. I know I can sing. So, and I got a lot of good feedback, which helped.
Yeah.
And so now I have a lot more fun with it. I still get a little nervous, but I have a lot more fun.
Well, I think a little bit of nerves is a good thing, but the nerves that hold you back, those are the hard ones that you really have to have people around you that encourage you to see those demons that are holding you back from all this fun that you have.
And I've been fortunate to have a lot of people around me who've encouraged me and given me, I don't want to say good feedback. They've encouraged me. It's not just about the feedback. It's the encouragement and support, and you can do this. And that was awesome.
Yeah. Okay. We've got some photos. I want to show these photos. All right. Talk about this one.
So this one, I love this photo. Larissa Brisky runs a local nonprofit called Girls Rock Sacramento. And she and this organization do amazing things to support girls in particular, but now they've opened it up even broader, so that youth have an opportunity to make music and write songs and have a good time. And so she does this regularly. This picture is from the very first ladies rock camp that Girls Rock Sacramento put on. And they have a new name now. I don't remember. They just recently rebranded. But I'm sure you can still find them if you look at Girls Rock Sacramento. So this was the first ladies rock camp, which is why we called ourselves the First Ladies. And in this band, we just were thrown together. We paid our tuition. We were thrown together. And I played lead guitar. For the very first time, I played electric guitar in this band. And it was great fun. We played at Swabby's. That was our big show.
Oh man, Swabby's. I love Swabby's.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was so much fun.
And so did you just have one show at Swabby's?
So that was just the one show. We did our practice, and then we had our showcase. So we had our one show.
Okay. And what's this photo?
And this is from Skips Music, also local music store. Skips Music has a Weekend Warriors program for basically middle-aged rockers.
Okay.
Those of us who did music a lot in our youth, and now we have day jobs and kids and all sorts of other things going on. So I call it speed dating for musicians. You go in, you audition, depending on how many of each instrument, they throw bands together, and then you meet for 4 weeks. You have 5 songs, and then again, there's a showcase. So that particular picture, I got to play with Roger Smith from Tower of Power. He was on keyboards. That was tremendous fun. He was so generous and so much fun.
And it looks
And
like you're pretty relaxed here. It looks like
oh,
you're related to the audience.
I was having such a good time. The level of musicianship in Weekend Warriors, it really draws some incredibly talented musicians and some local musical celebrities. So that's a lot of fun. And I think that was at Strikes in Rockland, I think was where we were for that one. So that was great fun as well. And playing on a stage with somebody like Roger was very exciting for me and a lot of fun. But we don't have to, you don't have to book the set. You don't have to set up or tear down. You're just there for this finite period of time with this group of people. It's a lot of fun. I love doing it.
And what year was that about?
That was, I think it was before the pandemic. So it was 2000, I want to say 2018.
Okay.
I'm looking at my calendar. That's what's over on that wall.
Okay. So what about this photo?
So this photo was when I was in an all original folk rock trio. We called ourselves Glowbox Lemonade. The 2 guys that are on stage with me, they were Glowbox, and then they invited me in, and then they went on their own again. But this particular performance was when we played at the legendary Whiskey A Go-Go on Sunset in Hollywood, California, and that was a good time.
Wow.
And those are my old stomping grounds. So I had a lot of friends and family at that performance, and that was a really, really exciting time.
Oh, I bet. I can't imagine.
And if you had told me, Tina, if you had told me that I would be playing the Whiskey in Hollywood at 40 something years old, I would have told you were crazy.
Well, and you had this big void, these 20 years that you didn't do anything. So
yeah, and I
now
missed
you
it.
come back. So now in the future, I hear that you're producing a CD.
So now I have ventured into songwriting, and I have a collection of original songs that I've written. And I will be creating a CD of my original songs. And I've got a local person who I'm talking to about the mixing and the mastering and the producing. And it's a whole process that I know nothing about. So
you're learning and growing.
I'm learning and growing and going for it. And I will always be creating something. So this is the next thing that I am creating. Okay. Very excited, very nervous.
Absolutely. When you have the CD ready, you have to let me know, and I'm gonna give you the Uptown bump and push it out on all my channels. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
Maybe we can have an event here at Uptown Studios. Have you been to our office?
I have not. I would love that.
So we can fit about 150 people standing and bring in a stage and do some music. I think we so could.
It sounds like it might be happening.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about, so we're going to go from stage fright to death.
Okay.
But not necessarily death. I think that this is good planning for healthy people. Let's talk about the healthy people first. So this is what are a couple indicators that it's time for you to set up a trust?
So I like that you said planning for healthy people, because that's always a good time to do your planning when you're not in the middle of a crisis, because then you've got time and space for that conversation to really put in place the things that are important to you and to make those decisions with clarity of mind. Mm-hmm. You asked when is a good time to be thinking about a trust. And generally, I will tell folks the 2 things that really make a trust a vehicle to explore are when you have children. When you have children, the guardian of the estate is the person who would manage money or property that would belong to a minor child. With a trust, you can avoid the need for that court-ordered guardian of the estate.
Okay.
And so their inheritance can be managed through that vehicle of the trust. We don't need to go to court. It can make things go much more quickly so that that money and property is more easily and readily accessible for the child support. And then the other thing that we use trust for is to avoid probate. So in California, very often your house is your largest asset. And even if there's a mortgage, probate doesn't care about your mortgage. It's all about the gross value. So that house would go through probate unless there's another way to transfer title, and a trust is a way to avoid probate. Save money, save time. So the minor child and the real estate are the two big reasons that we see for people to want to use that trust as a vehicle.
Okay. And so what if there are two people that are in a partnership, but there's nothing legal? Should you have a trust for something like that? Or should you wait until you have a domestic partnership or a legal marriage? What is some stuff that you look at in those kinds of relationships?
It's a great question, because when I've got a couple that do not have a legally recognized union, like a domestic partnership or a marriage, they're in a long-term committed relationship. California has no common law marriage, so you're not going to be deemed married here. It's not going to happen. In that case, we use two separate trusts depending on what they own. If you do a combined trust, there are some tax issues there that might make things more challenging. The simpler way to do it would be to have two separate trusts. So often what I'll do is we'll have two separate trusts. They'll have identical names, they'll have identical provisions, and each partner, there will be two trustees in each trust. So both partners are trustees of both trusts.
Okay. So then you keep it equal and manageable.
And each one knows what the other one is doing with the property and with the provisions. So, because that's how it would be if they had a joint trust. Okay. Nobody could amend it without the other's consent and knowledge and signature. So I use that approach to make it as much like a joint trust as we possibly can, while avoiding any unnecessary tax issues that might crop up.
So what are some of the hard questions that are asked when you're setting up a trust?
When I ask my clients, who do you want managing money and property if you're alive but incapacitated? Sometimes in my couples, sometimes they'll name different people. And then we have to talk about the logistics that come with that. Because if you name different people and you're both in the hospital at the same time, essentially you've created co-agents. And logistically, that can be challenging. So I always recommend, if I've got a couple in front of me, name the same people in the same order, one at a time, and things will be much smoother if this needs to happen.
Okay.
That's one of the big things that comes up a lot. People trust different people.
And does a living trust have your wishes in time of incapacitation? Do you have those kinds of forms in there? Like if I don't want to have any extra life-saving measures, does that included in a trust?
That's in a separate document. So that's in your advanced healthcare directive.
Okay.
And in California, that's the one document we use. In some states, they'll have a living will and a healthcare proxy, a directive to physicians, a power of attorney for healthcare. California has taken all of them, put them in one document called an advanced healthcare directive. And that's where we talk about things like organ donation, life-saving measures, burial or cremation. You can even put, if you have a religious faith that has very strict rules around the treatment of your body before or after death, we put that in there so that people know. So
those are hard conversations. I went through it with my wife, and those are some hard questions. It's not, I don't want to have extra effort taken if I'm brain dead. There's like 20 layers deeper than that you have to answer all of these hard questions. And you have to say, I don't know. It's like, if I have a 40% chance of recovery or a 20% chance, so you really have to think about this. And
we get as detailed as my clients want to get. For some of my clients, they don't like talking about it. They leave it very broad, very general. My agent can make all the decisions. I have other clients who have very, very strong opinions about what they want and don't want. I've had some clients, I had one client who wanted a sky burial. I've never heard of this. So I looked it up. Actually, my assistant looked it up and she said, I don't know if this is right, but this is like putting the body at the top of a mountain so that the wild animals can eat it. And it's exactly what that is. It's a Tibetan ritual, a sky burial. So I told her, I said, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that in California, but I'll put it in there. And then our backup plan, basically, what she really wanted was the greenest disposition of her body possible. So that's what we put in there. Make it as environmentally friendly as possible.
So wrap me in a cardboard and then put me in the earth, right? It's like make it easy.
So some people have really, really strong opinions or ideas about what they want and don't want. And my job as their attorney is to ask the questions, to draw out that information, and then put it in writing so that it's clear and legally enforceable. That's my job.
And the other thing that I want to talk about is how affordable is this?
There's a plan for every budget.
So like $1,000 up, or what kind of starting point do you have?
It depends so much on what the client wants. So generally speaking, if a couple comes to me with a trust-based plan and a minor child and one piece of real estate and a fairly simple distribution, in my office, it's usually going to start at $3,000. And that $3,000 gets you everything from soup to nuts. It includes all of our meetings, every phone call, you get drafts. So it's a process. It's not answer these questions, here are your documents. It's a process.
And then there are documents that you give them.
Yep, that's all part of that process.
Okay, so there's a written something, a binder.
Yep.
That has everything in it. So if something happens, you just need to tell people where the binder is.
Yep, they get their user's manual, and we have a long conversation about the care and feeding of those documents, so that people know they exist. Nobody knows these documents exist unless you tell them. So we talk about that too. How do we make sure someone knows you have these documents and how to get them so they can be used when they're needed?
So my recommendation to everybody that's listening is that reach out to Elise. She has a website. We'll put her website across the bottom. And I know that she's happy to talk to you and to figure out exactly what it is that you need and to help you in this process, because she's very helpful. And if you sign with her, she will sing you some of the lyrics of one of her songs.
If they ask, I'll do that. And I will say, I know that people hear the price point and they think lawyer and they go, nope, I can't afford it. I can't do it. So we always offer, for estate planning, we always offer a free consultation. I'm not always the right fit. You will never hang up the phone with me without a resource. I will always promise you that. If I'm not the right fit, I will give you resources so that you can find the right fit.
See, and that's what you want. I think that to have these kinds of discussions, you really want to sit down with somebody that you totally trust, because a living trust, you're going to divulge all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And you need to trust somebody that's going to get it down on paper the way that you want it. And then you take it with you, and it is going to serve you for a long time. And then you keep the documents also digitally, correct?
I do. I keep a hard copy. I also keep a digital copy. So if I've had clients move and they can't find their stuff, I've got it. I've got you back.
There's divorces, and there's deaths in the family, and there are all kinds of circumstances. So every so often you should review it, and Elise is right there. And I know that the edits to some long document are going to be much more affordable than the original. But you have a trusted team then. In your life, you have a trusted team called Elise Baker, who will sing a song for you, and she'll do it for a song. No, she won't do it for a song. So what else should people look for in their, it's not just a trust. What other things do you handle for people?
So you've got the 4 core documents in your estate plan. You've got your power of attorney for finance, your healthcare directive, your trust, and your will. And then there will be some related other documents as well that help those things work smoothly together. Part of when I work with you, always at the end of the day, I want you to know what you have, why you have it, how it works, and what comes next. And if that hasn't happened, then we're not done talking.
Okay. And so you strictly are working on trusts and wills.
I do that. I also help, I do some conservatorship work, only uncontested. I do not do contested litigation, but I will help people with conservatorships, trust administration, probates. I help with all of those things as well. So the front end, the back end.
Okay, tell me what a conservatorship is so that people understand what that is.
If you've got, mine are usually for adult incapacitated children. I have clients that have an adult child that has a developmental disability and they cannot live independently and they need their parents to continue managing their money and property, making medical decisions for them. The conservatorship process in California is how they get the legal authority to do that. And then they can talk to the doctors. And then if there is an inheritance that comes to the child, they can manage that money and property for the child. The biggest fear a lot of parents have, and it has happened, their 18-year-old gets into an accident and then the doctors won't talk to them because there's no healthcare directive on file. So I don't want, that's why when your developmentally disabled child turns 18, that's why that conservatorship might be necessary. Because you want to make sure you continue to have that open line of communication to be able to continue caring for them the way you've always cared for them.
Okay, now is there a conservatorship for senior adult parents?
There is, and that can get more challenging because what often happens is if there's more than one child, they're fighting. And then it can get very sticky. So I
have a contested conservatorship.
I don't do those.
Okay.
I do, though, get appointed as court-appointed counsel for the incapacitated parent. And so I become their voice in the process.
Awesome. So you really are looking out for people. That's awesome. So that's conservatorship. What was the next one?
Probate and trust administration.
Okay. Talk about what that includes.
So after somebody passes, their estate has to be administered. The assets have to go somewhere, and there's got to be a way to get them there. And probate is the default way to do that. So if you have a house and you die and you want your child to get your house, somehow the title has to change and there has to be the legal authority for that change. Probate is the default for that. You open probate, it takes about a year when it goes really fast and smooth. And then you can change title. It goes from the deceased person to the administrator of the estate, and then from the administrator of the estate to the beneficiary. In a trust, we bypass probate.
So this is if you don't have a trust.
Exactly.
Then it goes to probate. And so you get court assigned probate, right? Is that correct?
So people will come to me and say, I need to administer my mom's estate. And I'll say, we have no trust. We have to go to probate. So then we file a petition to open the probate.
Okay. Okay.
With a trust, we don't have to wait for that court order. You file that petition, you can be waiting 2 months, in some counties even more. So you can't get anything done. So, with a trust, you don't have to wait for that delayed time.
If you have senior parents, and many of us have people in their 80s and 90s, what's the conversation like with your parents?
So if my parents are able to make their own decisions, then the first thing I do is ask, what do you have any estate planning documents in place? And if they say yes, it'd be nice if they'd share them, but sometimes they're very private. They don't like sharing those things.
Okay. And maybe the most that you can get is, where do you keep the documents? That
would be so valuable if they have documents knowing where they are. Absolutely.
If you have aging parents, it's like, ask them if they have a trust and a will. And if they don't want to share it, ask them where they store the documents in case something happens, you know how to access them, or what their lawyer's name is.
Yes, absolutely.
So
absolutely. Or if somebody else knows where the documents are, who should we be talking to?
And do they have an executor? I think is that something that they should ask?
If they have the documents, they've got people named in them.
Okay.
That much you'll know.
Okay. We have 1 minute left. What do you leave with people? What's the hurry on this?
If you don't put your plan in place, California has a plan for you, and it might not be the one you want.
And it might be way more expensive. It will be. It will
And
be.
I make all the money. The lawyers make all the money when that happens.
All right. So, it's like either you make the 3,000 plus to start with, or you're going to make way more, because California makes it more confusing.
That is a true statement.
Is that the true statements? All right, everyone. I want you to hang in there. Starting next week, we're going to be talking to some nonprofits, and we're going to be talking about Giving Tuesday, which is where you're going to give to the nonprofits that you care most about. We're going to talk to some special nonprofits. The other thing is prepare for the holidays and shop local. You don't have to worry about shipping. You don't have to worry about any of that. Support our small businesses and go to the stores and buy little tiny cute things. Thanks to everyone. I'll see you next Tuesday at 11. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Tina. Bye-bye.